how do you recommend I use goals? Or what happens when I need to use up the money I've got saved for my goals? Should I create sinking funds for my goals? These are just some of the questions I've gotten about goals in Monarch Money. Today, I'm going to answer all of them for you. Hey there, I'm Brittany Flammer. I am the creator of Financial Fitness and a certified financial coach. There are a lot of different ways you can do things in Monarch, which is great, but it kind of complicates things. Today, I'm going to show you how you can use goals for savings. In a previous video, when I talked about goals, I showed you how to use it for paying off credit card debt. Today, we're going to talk about goals for savings. I'm also going to show you another way to do it using the rollover feature. At the end, I'll show you how I personally do it. I should mention this is not sponsored by Monarch Money. I just have a lot of clients that use Monarch Money, so I am very familiar with it. If you are interested in Monarch Money, I have an affiliate link in the description box or in the comments where you can get a free 30-day trial of Monarch. I'm not getting any money from them, but if you use my link, it will credit my Monarch account so I can continue to do free videos on Monarch Money. For this example, let's create two goals. We'll come over here to the Goals tab, and I'm going to do an emergency fund as well as a vacation fund. So I'll click on emergency fund and vacation. Then I have to scroll down, click next. If you want to edit and customize, you can edit right here. Now, how much I want to save, this is my goal. So our emergency fund, let's say I want to have let's do 18,000 is my goal for our entire emergency fund. For our vacation, I want it to be 5,000. And I want to link them to accounts. This is how you track the progress in goals. So if I'm gonna link our emergency fund, these are all of the accounts I have linked here in Monarch Money. I can scroll down and I am going to choose the savings account that I am using for my emergency fund. So I have this savings account labeled emergency fund. For the sake of this video, I don't use a lot of transactions out of there. So I'm also going to link this one just to show you what it looks like with actual real transactions. And you can choose to use the entire balance. So let's say I want all of this, and then I don't want the whole balance here. I just want 1,000 of this to go towards my emergency fund. Whoops. Make sure this is deselected and type in the amount. Goodness. And then done. So you can see right here, these are the two accounts I have linked. For vacation, I am just going to link this savings account. And this is showing me how much is available. So I'm just gonna leave that full amount that's left. So after the 1,000 that goes towards my savings account, or my emergency fund, 1,235 is what is left. So I'll click done. So now you can see right here, it's linked to that Ally savings account. And right here is where I type in how much I want to contribute to that each month. I'm gonna leave it 0 for now. And then when I go into my budget, I will look to see how much I can contribute. So when I'm on the goals tab, this is going to show me I've got 17,580. I'm not quite to my goal. The dark blue is my goal, white's what I've got. So I've got just a little bit left to reach my goal. My vacation, it's showing you my progress on the goal. So this is great if you have one savings account, but you want to be able to visually separate how much is in your emergency fund versus your vacation versus your car fund versus whatever fund. Now let's go take a look at the budget. If you click on the budget tab and then you're going to scroll down, it will show you your goals. At the very bottom is where the goals show up. So you can see here the emergency fund and vacation. It doesn't show me how much I have in those accounts, but here's where I can plan for the budget. So I have $175 left in my budget to plan for. So I am going to put 100 towards our emergency fund, and then the last 75 I'm going to put towards our vacation. Oh, in the goals section, this is different than all the other categories. In the goals section, the budget amount is how much I plan to transfer into my savings towards my goal. The actual amount is how much I actually put towards my goal. Now, it is important to note that Monarch does not actually move the money out of your checking account into a savings account. This is just tracking it. So you will have to actually take the money out of your checking and move it into your savings account. You can do it, it doesn't matter if it's automated or you do it manually. You're going to have to actually move it out. When you do this, you're gonna have two transactions. Let me show you what that looks like. So this, for example, let's say I actually transferred 150. So this transaction, it's black, so that means it's coming out of my account. So it's coming out of my checking account and going towards my savings. You'll notice it's marked as a transfer because I haven't spent any money. I'm just moving it from one account to another account. So it's black, meaning it left this account going to my Ally. You can see here, it's positive and green 150 because it went from my Ally Bank into my Ally sinking funds. So there's going to be one negative and one positive. They balance each other out. They're counted as transfers because you're just transferring money. So that is not an expense, but you can link it to your goal. The way to do that is for the positive transaction, the one that's coming into your savings account. We come over to this little arrow caret icon and you'll see we want to keep it as a transfer, but I can link it to a goal. So I click on that. I have the option of linking it to any goal that is linked to this savings account. So I'm going to click emergency fund because that was for my emergency fund. And now I'll show you what that looks like. Let's go back to our budget. We scroll down. You can see I budgeted at 100, but I actually put 150 towards my goal. So it's a negative 50. And normally when I see negative, I associate that with negative, like I'm over budget. But in this case, that means I've saved $50 more than what I was planning on. The downfall, I feel, of goals is they're tricky when you actually use money out of your goal. So let me show you an example of this. So for this example, let's say, hypothetically speaking, our washing machine just died. We need to buy a new one. So we go to the store and purchase the washing machine and we'll pay for it on our credit card. So in this example, this transaction, at the Home Depot, I spent $700 and it's on my credit card. It's not coming from my savings account. It's put on their credit card and it's under house maintenance. So if we go back to the budget, you will see our house maintenance, we are way over budget. We're over. We only planned on spending 150 and we spent 700. So we are 550 over budget. But let's say we want to pull that money out of our emergency fund. So we transfer the money from our emergency fund into our account to pay for it. So once that transaction comes up, you can see here, I transferred money from my sinking funds into my Wells Fargo. This is the account where my credit card gets paid from. So I can come over here, click on that little caret, and I can link it to my goal for emergency fund. Now, after we've applied it, if we come over to our budget and we look at our goal, we can see we planned on putting 100 into it, but we actually took out negative 400 because we'd already put 150 in. We took out 550, but we'd already put 150 in. So it's really negative 400. So we have $500 left to put into our goal to go back to reaching our goal for the month. So this I feel like is really, really tricky. And if you scroll up, house maintenance is still going to be red and over budget. But we want it to stay categorized as house maintenance because we want everything categorized correctly. So if you run a report or you look to see where your money's going, you want to see that that's how much you spent on house maintenance. So maybe next year you'll budget more for it. So you can just leave this red if that doesn't bother you and just know that you pulled it out of emergency fund. Or for next month, you can roll over. It's got the rollover feature on. So you're going to start off with negative 550. You can just budget more in October rather than 150. You could budget 550 for next month. Or there is a reset feature for the rollover. So if you don't like starting with the negative right here on the settings, not right there. If you click on the category house maintenance right here, you can reset the rollover, and I've already done it, so it's not going to let you do it. But it should let you reset, so it'll start at 0, so you won't be in the red next month. Now I'm going to show you another way to handle goals. I think it's a little bit simpler, but you can see for yourself using the rollover feature. So rollover feature, you can turn it on or off for any category. It just means the money in there rolls over to the next month. So say you have a $500 budget for groceries and you don't use it all, everything left will roll over, so you'll have more next month. And it can roll over negative as well as positive. For this example, we'll use the vacation and the emergency fund again. If we want to create a new category, I'll go into settings, categories, and then I'm going to create a category here named emergency fund. And I want to make it a rollover fund. So starting this month, it's easiest if you just keep it starting this month. How much, if I already have money set aside in a savings account, I think I said I had $15,000 set aside, just type in how much you have. And this means you have money set aside for your emergency fund. If I don't have any money set aside already, I'm just starting from scratch, then you would just leave it at 0. So now when we go to the budget, you can see right here, my emergency fund, and it has the little arrow. Green means we're positive, so this means I have $15,000 left in the account, and it will roll over to next month. This negative 50, it's red, that means I'm 50 in the hole. So next month I'll be negative 50. If I want to take a category I've already got and turn it to a rollover, I'll just come here to the little gear icon by that category, and I will click make it a rollover fund. Now, if I've already got money set aside, like the emergency fund, I had the $15,000, but let's say I don't have any money set aside for kids sinking funds. So I'm just gonna leave it at 0 and save. But now it's going to have the green arrow, so that $66 will get rolled over. So next month I will start off with $66. Using these rollovers feature, the money will roll over month to month. If you do not create a separate savings account, it's just going to accumulate in your checking account. If you do create a separate savings account, then you yourself will have to transfer the money into your savings account. So for example, I have a savings account that is my emergency fund. I budgeted $100, meaning I want to set 100 aside, put 100 into my emergency fund. Let's say I do actually transfer the $100 into my emergency fund. Then that will show up as a transfer. It won't count against me. I'm just moving it. We don't need to categorize it. We only need to categorize when we actually spend the money. So let's use the exact same example we used before. My washing machine broke. I go to Home Depot and I put it on my credit card for $700. If I come over here to the transactions tab, we can see that I went to the Home Depot, I spent $700, and it was on house maintenance. And I swiped it on my credit card. So if I go back to the budget tab and I scroll down to house maintenance, I am way over budget. Budgeted 150, spent 700, so I'm 550 over budget. Now, if we have our emergency fund or have our goals as a rollover, it's a lot simpler. I can just click on this red bubble and it's showing me I'm negative 550. So I can click on it and I can pull it from somewhere else. So let's say I want to pull that money out of my emergency fund. I will just click on it. If you see here, you can scroll through all the different categories, but I'm gonna pull it out of my emergency fund and I'll click save. So now, if you'll see, it takes this down to 0. So I'm not red for house maintenance. It still shows that I spent $700 because I bought the washing machine, and I want that to be categorized as the house maintenance because that's what it was. But it adjusted, it did everything for me. So it already moved this to 700 to make that 0, so we don't have any red. But then if we scroll down, our emergency fund, it's gonna do negative 450. So it does the math for you, the negative 450, but then you yourself would have to actually transfer money from your emergency fund into your account. How I personally use goals and rollover feature in Monarch Money, this is not the only way to do it, but how I personally do it, I will use a goal if I'm saving up, but like not gonna touch it for years. So our emergency fund, we haven't touched ever, I don't think. So I would put our emergency fund as a goal. or if it were saving up for a house down payment, or maybe for a new car, something that I'm not going to use for a long time, I would keep it as a goal. But for everything else, I would use it as a rollover. I personally, you can turn any category on as a rollover. I personally like to have my own group. So you can see here, I have my fund bills. I have a group called sinking funds. These are all of my sinking funds, and I turn the rollover on these. I personally have an online savings account that lets me separate by buckets. So I have a bucket for travel, a bucket for kids extracurricular. So at the end of the month, this is exactly how much I have in there. Or if you just had one savings account, you would just know there's $26,000 in that savings account at the end of the month. And if I look here in Monarch, I can see how much I have set aside for each. If you want a concise tutorial showing you the steps to get started with Monarch, here is a video with that, or I have more detailed videos on each of these steps as well. Thanks so much for watching. See you in the next video.